Hello and welcome to Aston's Vintage Technology Workshop. Back in the early 80s, I was introduced to radio-controlled cars. At the time, they were not anything particularly special, but I enjoyed tinkering with them and souping them up nonetheless. Most of them were either second-hand or boxes of bits and pieces that were cobbled together, including a Tamiya, Ford 150, and various Tandy pre-made out-of-the-box cars. This all changed when I sent off to America for a second-hand RC10 two-wheel drive racing buggy. This first foray into professional off-road racing buggies led me to finding an off-road racing track and competing with other like-minded teenagers and veterans alike. It didn't take me very long to realize that I was doing quite well, and within a few years I was winning at club level and lower national venues, culminating in me being the Wrigley's champion for 5 years running. So, about 2.5 years ago, due to a certain outbreak across the world, I decided it would be a good time to dig it all out of the loft, find out what parts were missing from all of my competition racing buggies, and rebuild them. This led me to diving down the rabbit hole of vintage spares and acquiring parts from all over the world to finish off my well-loved and abused possessions. So here are the results of my efforts. I've tried to source original parts where available, and the odd reintroduced part where they weren't available. Suffice to say, it's taken about 2 years and an enormous amount of waiting, negotiating, and most of my spare time tracking down the parts, cleaning, repairing, and rebuilding what you see here. This also includes sourcing vintage parts for such things as the motors, the speed controllers, and even down to such things as the correct missing screws, nuts, and bolts. Obviously, one change had to be made on all of the buggies. This was the radio receiver and transmitter combinations, as 27 MHz is no longer legally allowed to be used. But I'm fine with that, as 27 MHz transmitters were always a bit of a nightmare regarding interference for me anyway. So I borrowed my helicopter transmitter, popped in a few receivers, and everything is good to go. All the motors were rebuilt and skimmed, and now run like new. See one of my other videos for that process.